All right, welcome to this podcast. It's on behalf of Small Enterprise Association Australia and New Zealand and Monash University Unit MGC 3250. I'm Tui McKeown and we're talking this morning to Judy O'Connell, Victoria's Small Business Commissioner. She's the third one in the row. This has taken on a mighty task from two luminary predecessors and has been doing amazing things with the Small Business Commission. So perhaps, Judy, if we can start, can you tell us what the role is? What is it you do?
Thanks, Tui. So really the Small Business Commission was set up in 2003 to make sure that there's a level playing field for small businesses, to make it a fair and competitive environment when they're dealing with large business and government. Government can be quite bureaucratic sometimes, and large business, of course, have got the infrastructure and the resources to do a lot more than a small business. So the role is really threefold. The first one is around advocating for businesses on behalf of where there's systemic issues. So if there's an issue that's impacting quite a number of small businesses, then we work on that issue, and they would range from cash flow, looking at when infrastructure's being developed, and mental health of small businesses. We also have a dispute resolution service. So any small business that has a commercial dispute with another business or a government agency can come to us, and we will try and resolve it through alternate dispute resolution to keep it out of the court system. So we know that to go to court these days, really just to go to VCAT, can cost around $5,000-$10,000. So if you're a small business owner, most of them don't have that sort of money, and most of them will either wear the dispute and wear the burnt relationship, or they will try and take it to court and get into financial difficulty. So the Small Business Commission, in the first instance, when somebody lodges a dispute, and these sort of disputes can range from the landlord won't fix the leaky roof to I've sold these goods and services and they've refused to pay, to I have purchased a goods or services and it's faulty and I can't get any compensation back from doing it. And so these sort of issues, and we get about 2,000 of these a year, the Small Business Commission will look at the application, send it to the respondent and get a response. And in about 30% of the cases, we actually find that the other party will say, oh, this is pretty serious, I'd better actually do something about it, and they will resolve the dispute. And that doesn't cost either party anything. We then have a panel of mediators who are mainly barristers who sit both parties down, and they will talk through the issues and try and resolve it that way. And we resolve about 80% of the cases in that instance.
That's incredibly high.
Yes, it's really high. So, it's a lot of give and take. If I give an example, this air conditioner installer was trying to recover the money from the developer because he refused to pay when they sat down, and it sounded like it's pretty straightforward. Well, why won't the developer pay? But when you actually get down to it, the developer had some issues about his health and safety of installing it. When they sat down and discussed it, the installer actually agreed to go back and do something a bit different, and then the developer agreed to pay, $45,000 out of the $54,000. So it's always give and take, but a much better option than one, burning a relationship, and two, being out of pocket. So that's a sort of second thing that we do, resolve disputes, and the third one is to actually try and educate small businesses about their rights and responsibilities. I'll talk about the top 5 dispute categories, but the second one is not understanding their contractual rights. And often we will find that the small business owner will sign a contract and not actually understand what they're signing up to. So a good example of this was the business who decided that they were going to have a spa company, open a day spa. So they got a lease, a 5-year lease, signed the contract, only to find out that in the fine print, one of the things was that they weren't allowed to change any of the plumbing. so they couldn't put the spa in, so they were stuck with this sort of building that they couldn't use. It wasn't fit for purpose, but they couldn't get out of the contract. And the landlord in this instance said, no, I'm sorry, you've signed the contract, and there's nothing we can do about it because under the law, they've signed the contract. So we spend a lot of our time trying to educate small businesses about making sure, because we're all, we tick that box, terms and conditions.
Hit the button on the
hit the button,
mm-hmm.
and that's all done. So, I think especially in business, you've got to make sure, and especially when it's a contract with quite a lot of money, you've got to make sure that you actually do read that fine print. So they're the sort of things that the Small Business Commission does.
This is a huge remit, Judy. So you said 2,000 over 2018, 2019. What were the top 5? What are the big issues you've had over the last year?
So the number one issue is around retail leases. So, and that's a lot due to, it was a really clever idea that before you can go to VCAT, if you're a business, you have to come to the Commission and try and mediate it and resolve it. So we get about 1,000 retail lease disputes a year. And the second one is around owing money. So the small business has supplied the goods and services and not being provided with the money. The third one is around the contractual rights and responsibilities. The fourth one is around compensation or getting their money back when there's faulty goods or services. And the fifth one probably is around false misrepresentations.
So these are real bread and butter issues. Are they changing? What do you see going forward into the future?
Look, I think there's more around retail leases at the moment. Retail trade is really struggling, and we are finding that, especially in the retail leases, that there are more landlords bringing disputes to us where the tenant has fallen behind in their payments, or they've actually left the premises. So these are the empty shopping strips most of us see as we drive home. That's right. So we're trying to do, with the Victorian government, because the Small Business Commission is a statutory authority, which means we sit aside. We're not part of a department in the government. We're actually independent, and that independence means that we can actually be there for small businesses in terms of the advocacy, and really have independence when we're doing the mediation. So we work quite closely with the Victorian government, and a lot of the issues we'll advocate on. And one of the issues is around that vacant shopping centre and what we can actually do to try and reinvigorate those shopping centres.
And you're anticipating this is probably going to be a bit of a hot topic still in 2020?
Yes, definitely. Yes, yeah. I think retail is going through a huge change. It will not go back. I think that most small business retailers have got to understand that they can't just have a physical presence anymore. They've actually got to have the online web presence as well as a physical presence. And it's a known fact that 50% of small businesses, and this is across the whole industry sector, only 50% actually have a website or use the internet for their business. So there's an awful lot of businesses out there who are perhaps the older generation that didn't grow up with the internet, that have, had the shop and it's worked quite well. Why do I need to change? And the other big change is that it's all about customer experience now. So it's not enough to go in there and have the shop assistant say, yeah, what do you want? Or, you're okay. It's all around what that experience. And when you look at some of the really smart companies, it's around how they're actually making you want to come into that shop and actually be part of it. Lululemon, which is I don't know if I should be actually saying, but one of these sportswear companies. I went in there and they said, we've got a yoga session tomorrow morning. We were down in Sorrento. That sounds like a great idea. And went in the next morning and did the yoga. And of course, the instructors are all decked out in all their gear. And afterwards, you thought, I want to look like that. And so you'd buy the gear. And
so that nice value add on without in a subtle way.
You have a great experience, and that's what it's all about now. It's the experience, and I think that's the changes that the retail sector still have to be across.
One of the things that always comes through talking to you, Judy, is that you've got that hands-on experience. So obviously, the Small Business Commission, you're not just sitting down in your offices in central Melbourne, you're out and about there. Part of this then, the last question I'd really like to ask you, because you have this neutral playing ground, you are the honest broker, this mediation service, what would your number one piece of advice be for somebody considering going into small business?
Oh, I think it's like going to university. It's doing the homework. It's doing the
Students, are you listening to this?
It really is. It's doing your research
Mm-hmm.
before you actually enter into it. You can have a great idea, and there's some great resources out there now. There's a website, myvictoria.gov.au, that actually pulls together 54 different sets of data real time, and actually says, so you can plug in your suburb. You could plug in Monash Council, or you could plug in Clayton, and it will come up and it will tell you what are the businesses in that suburb, what are the populations in that suburb, and you can really research. So if you actually looked at the population and you see, oh, there's an awful lot of under 2-year-olds, maybe, and then you look and you think there's only one childcare centre, oh, maybe that's the sort of thing that I really need. Or, there's already 50 coffee shops, perhaps another coffee shop isn't really needed in this area, but when I plug in Dandenong, there isn't as many, and maybe that's where I need to go. So there is some research tools and a business plan. People have got to have a business plan before they go into business and work out where they want to be along the continuum, so they actually know where they're tracking and work on the business as well as in the business, so they know where they're actually going.
That's a very good practical advice. So thank you very much to Judy O'Connell, our guest today. And any more details, we'll be putting up the website information as well as some extra slides for people to come and look at. Thank you very much, Judy.
Thanks very much, Tui.
Done.